Ireland's Ansrin. Joy, they're aloft to the stadium tonight with after a brilliant performance, one which started in the best possible way with that early low try, and from there they kicked on, never relented, continued to score, and it really has been a fabulous performance overall.
Yeah, brilliant performance. It's all about recovery now, but what they did tonight, Ireland, so ruthless when they, scoring the tries, the handling, the offloading, the clinical nature, particularly in that first half. It got a bit crazy in the second half, but what a performance from this Irish side. Grew in confidence. They'll certainly be, obviously try and get the players recovered for next week, but nobody really saw this sort of a dominant performance coming, but it was brilliant again, and they make it 17 out of 17 on wins and the bounce. Brilliant from them.
And for the second time in a fortnight, it's the Cranberries that are blasting out around the Stade de France here in Paris. Ireland have blasted their way to the quarterfinals of the Rugby World Cup, where the All Blacks await in a week's time. Full time at the Stade de France. Ireland 36, Scotland 14.
Dave Allen, thank you. Well, look at this. This was supposed to be a very difficult night for Ireland. Banana skin, it was a demolition job. 36 points to nil after 65 minutes. And there, lest you need reminding, is the pool they have breezed through in fantastic style. Top the pool, and so all roads lead to next weekend. And for Ireland, once again, it's the Stade de France. Sterner opposition, though. New Zealand in a World Cup quarter-final. Virgin Media 1 next Saturday. Join us from 3:30 because Wales will play either Japan or Argentina, and we have that game for you tomorrow. It's effectively a playoff between Japan and Argentina in the other quarter-final. So that one's on in Marseille, 3:30, and then it's Stade de France once again for Ireland against New Zealand. It will be Stade de France all the way until the end for Ireland, wherever that end may be. We're getting used to this, Rob.
Sure are. Let the good times keep on rolling. That was utterly, utterly dominant. I think it was Ireland's best performance of this World Cup. They are improving so nicely each week. A little bit more in them, but I don't think we could ask to be in a more perfect position at the end of these pool stages.
They haven't done anything to dampen expectation, have they?
It's going to be a calm week here, I think.
It is going to be ramped up to 11.
Can we put we've got to celebrate that. The opposition next week are a different league. Different league. So your reward for beating South Africa and Scotland and topping a pool is pulling New Zealand in a quarter. What a unjust system. But it's the system they're in. But it is a very, very different game. But if they keep playing like that and keep stepping up as they're doing, they're right in there.
We'll be in New Zealand's heads, that's for sure.
Funny thing, I was down at 𝐒𝐜𝐥𝐴 when that song was blasted for the first time. It's quickly become an anthem. It's hard to know where to start, really. Shane, who was Ireland's best performer there?
I don't think they got.
Yeah.
Actually, just something came to mind there. And again, don't want to ramp expectation up too much, but I saw Sexton there, and I just got a feeling, and it was maybe the emotion of the song playing as well. But I remember being in a changing room with Sexton for Leinster's first Heineken Cup, and him saying that he felt it was meant to be, and it's maybe a nonsense as well, but sometimes if the players believe it, that's almost enough. You think that there's a possibility here that they feel as if they're on a passage or on a journey, and as Rob said, that's the best performance they've had so far in the World Cup, I think. Really formidable. And it hasn't done anything to suggest that journey is going to end anytime soon.
No, I agree, 100%. 100%. And you can just see that they're talking about body language. Like you look at they're walking off the field and they're obviously pleased and happy, but you're not punching the air and running around. They just go, next week, we're on to next week.
No,
that's qualified.
It's not that emotional high that can be difficult to come down from.
Yeah, they know the next 3 Saturdays are, each one's going to be more important than the one before, more pressure than the one before, and they're looking forward to it. They're inviting it in. They're not punching the air, we've made it. They're going, this is the next step.
But Rob, I think they're changing perceptions, right, of Ireland.
Yes.
And I don't care what anyone says, Ireland being, world number one, outside of Ireland, nobody really thinks they're world number one. They don't. And it's often sort of used as a bit of a scoff at Ireland as well. Now, unfortunately, we won't ever get that offer back until we go further than the quarterfinals. But I do think perceptions are changing, because that Scottish team, if they weren't beaten after the first couple of minutes with the try, after we rejected them out of their 22, after that sustained period of attack, it was finished then. And they were never coming back. Yeah. And that is something that we've seen with the elite Southern Hemisphere teams and the England team of the 2003 World Cup. Some of those teams that they played against were beaten very early, or even beaten before they came out in the field. And to some degree, that Scottish team looks like they were beaten before they came out into the field.
I think every team, when you go into a World Cup and you look at your fixtures, you always pinpoint one game in the competition that you think is the big one. And Scotland said it today, that this was their World Cup final. And I don't think Ireland pinpointed that South African game as the big match of this tournament. It was the quarterfinal. And it was always the quarterfinal, and everything was building towards the quarterfinal and finally getting past that hump. So whatever has gone beforehand, this team is solely focused on that quarterfinal. Yeah. And then get through that, and then everything is there to play for.
And we should say New Zealand are bubbling nicely, Matt. I mean, they're coming to the fore now.
Oh, New Zealand, this is not the greatest New Zealand side I've ever seen, but there is never a bad New Zealand side. That's what people have to get through their heads. They keep saying, it's not the greatest New Zealand side. Yeah, that doesn't make them a bad team. This is a very competent New Zealand side that are hurting. And you have to give them the respect. I'm sure Ireland will give them the respect. But the Kiwis know this because of their history in the World Cup. Quite often the best teams don't win the World Cup. But you've got to win that quarterfinal. If you can win the quarterfinal, it changes everything. And New Zealand have been knocked out a number of times in their past at semis and quarters by teams that haven't gone on to win it. But that quarterfinal, like Robbie said, is everything. And I agree with him. That team's body language is telling me they're focused on next week.